In a significant development that could reshape international trade dynamics, President Donald Trump announced a landmark trade agreement with the United Kingdom, marking the first substantial trade deal since the imposition of sweeping tariffs on various trading partners. The announcement comes amid a backdrop of ongoing tensions and negotiations involving multiple countries, particularly China and the European Union. During a press conference at the White House, Trump hailed the agreement as a historic deal that would ease non-tariff barriers for U.S. exports, particularly in the agricultural sector, including beef and ethanol. "This is a great deal for both countries," he stated, emphasizing the expected increase in market access for American exporters. The UK in turn will see a reduction in tariffs on its exports to the US, with duties on British vehicles decreasing from 25% to 10%. Aligning with the U.S. baseline tariff imposed on numerous countries. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick elaborated on the deal's details, highlighting that while the UK will still be subject to a 10% baseline tariff on many products, the overall arrangement is projected to add approximately $5 billion in opportunities for American exporters. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the agreement as a fantastic historic day, underscoring the strong ties shared between the two nations. However, the broader implications of the trade deal remain to be seen, especially considering the U.S.'s ongoing trade tensions with other nations. Negotiations with the European Union are reportedly strained, with the EU announcing new tariffs on U.S. goods that could total over $100 billion if trade discussions fail to yield satisfactory results. This backdrop of escalating trade friction highlights the precarious balancing act that the Trump administration must navigate as it seeks to implement its America First economic agenda. In parallel to the trade announcements, Trump's administration is facing criticism from various sectors, particularly manufacturing, where companies are grappling with the consequences of the tariffs. Many U.S. manufacturers report increased production costs due to higher prices on imported materials. Craig Sauser, CEO of a Pennsylvania-based manufacturing firm, expressed frustration, stating, "It's been the most bizarre rollercoaster ride," indicating that the tariffs have resulted in diminished demand and halted investment plans. Moreover, Trump has indicated a willingness to negotiate lower tariffs on Chinese goods, suggesting that the 145% tariff rate may be subject to change depending on the outcomes of upcoming discussions. This proposal comes as U.S. officials prepare for critical talks with their Chinese counterparts in Geneva, aiming for de-escalation amid a volatile trade landscape. While the stock market initially reacted positively to the announcement of the U.S.-UK trade deal, analysts caution that the effects of tariffs are yet to fully manifest in the economy. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell noted that the anticipated tariff shock has not yet materialized in economic data, but warned of potential inflationary impacts should tariffs remain in place for an extended period. In a related move, the House of Representatives passed a bill codifying Trump's executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, reflecting the administration's focus on reshaping national identity alongside its trade policies. As these developments unfold, both domestic and international observers remain watchful of how Trump's trade strategies will reshape economic relations moving forward. The implications of these trade negotiations and policy decisions are vast, with potential ripple effects across global markets, manufacturing sectors, and consumer prices. As the administration continues to pursue its ambitious trade agenda, the outcomes of these negotiations will be pivotal in determining the future landscape of international trade and economic relations. In a significant diplomatic development, President Donald Trump announced a groundbreaking trade agreement with the United Kingdom on May 8, 2025. The deal marks the first comprehensive trade pact between the two nations since Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on various goods in early April. During a press conference at the White House, Trump praised the agreement as a great deal for both countries, emphasizing its potential to enhance U.S. export markets, particularly in the agricultural sector. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers, Trump stated, highlighting the pact's far-reaching implications for American farmers. The agreement is expected to open new avenues for U.S. agricultural exports while reducing regulatory hurdles for American goods entering the UK. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who joined Trump via phone during the announcement, described the day as fantastic and historic. However, the deal does come with caveats. The UK will still face a universal 10% tariff on its exports to the US, and while tariffs on British steel and aluminum will be eliminated, a 10% tax on UK cars exported to the US will remain in place. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick noted that the U.S. has agreed to scale back the 25% tariffs on foreign autos to 10%, providing much-needed relief to the UK's automotive industry. The announcement sent ripples through global financial markets, with U.S. stocks surging in response. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite rose approximately 1.8%, while the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average also saw substantial gains. However, this optimism is tempered by the reality that negotiations with the European Union (EU) are currently strained, with the EU unveiling potential tariffs on U.S. products if trade talks do not progress satisfactorily. In parallel, tensions with China remain high as U.S. officials prepare for crucial discussions with their Chinese counterparts this weekend. Trump indicated a willingness to lower the current 145% tariffs on Chinese goods, contingent upon the success of the upcoming negotiations. "At some point I'm going to lower them," Trump remarked, emphasizing the need for a fair deal that benefits both nations. On the economic front, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has noted that the anticipated tariff shock has yet to materialize in the U.S. economy, maintaining that the central bank's approach will remain data-driven as trade dynamics evolve. This cautious stance reflects the uncertainty surrounding the broader economic impact of Trump's tariff policies, which have sparked concerns about inflation and potential disruptions to global supply chains. As the US and UK embark on this new chapter in their trade relationship, the implications of the deal will unfold in the coming weeks, with final details yet to be finalized. Observers will be keenly watching how this agreement affects not only transatlantic relations but also the broader landscape of international trade, particularly in light of ongoing negotiations with China and the EU. In conclusion, while the US-UK trade deal presents a significant milestone for Trump's administration, it also highlights the complex web of global trade relationships that continue to shift under the weight of evolving tariffs and negotiations. As the administration seeks to solidify its position on the international stage, the outcomes of these trade talks could shape the future of U.S. economic policy and its standing with key allies and trading partners. In a whirlwind of political and economic developments, President Donald Trump made headlines this week with significant announcements regarding trade personnel changes and international relations, amid growing concerns about partisanship and the effectiveness of his administration. Trump revealed a new trade agreement with the United Kingdom, marking the first such deal since he imposed sweeping tariffs on various trading partners. During a press conference, Trump characterized the newly formed trade deal as historic, emphasizing that it would significantly reduce non-tariff barriers for U.S. exports, particularly in sectors such as beef, ethanol, fuel, and machinery. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick elaborated on the agreement, stating that the UK would lower tariffs on American vehicles from 25% to 10%, aligning them with the baseline tariff already imposed by the US on numerous countries. However, analysts at JP Morgan cautioned that the deal's economic impact might be limited given the UK's relatively minor role as a goods trading partner compared to other countries. Trump's administration has faced mounting scrutiny regarding its tariff policies, which have drawn mixed reactions from American businesses. While some industries, particularly pharmaceuticals and automotive manufacturing, have announced plans to expand domestic production, many companies have reported rising costs and declining demand as a direct consequence of the tariffs. Craig Sauser, CEO of robotics manufacturer JLS, expressed frustration, stating, "It's been the most bizarre rollercoaster ride, the air came out of the balloon." These sentiments reflect a broader uncertainty among manufacturers who are grappling with increased costs for imported materials and machinery. In a related move, Trump indicated that he would be nominating a replacement for Ed Martin as U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. after Martin faced bipartisan pushback due to concerns over his lack of prosecutorial experience and previous defense of individuals involved in the January 6 Capitol riot. Trump expressed disappointment in the Senate's reluctance to support Martin, stating that's the way it works sometimes, and assured reporters that a qualified candidate would be presented soon. Internationally, Trump's administration is also focusing on expanding trade discussions with the European Union, hinting at a potential reduction in the 145% tariffs currently placed on Chinese goods. This comes as the U.S. continues to navigate complex geopolitical tensions, including military operations against the Houthi militants in Yemen, which have reportedly cost over $1 billion. Trump's strategy of leveraging trade deals as a negotiating tool has drawn both praise and criticism as the global economy reacts to the evolving landscape of U.S. trade policies. In an unexpected turn of events, Trump congratulated Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost on being elected the first American Pope Leo XIV, marking a historic moment for the Catholic Church and the U.S. This acknowledgement highlights the intertwining of political and cultural narratives that continue to shape Trump's presidency. As the administration grapples with internal and external challenges, the implications of these developments will unfold in the coming months. With ongoing negotiations and a shifting political landscape, the effectiveness of Trump's trade policies, personnel decisions, and diplomatic strategies will be critical in determining the trajectory of his second term. Looking ahead, the administration's ability to address the concerns of American manufacturers and navigate international relations will be pivotal in shaping both economic resilience and political stability. In recent weeks, the economic landscape in the United States has been significantly impacted by a series of tariffs announced by President Donald Trump. These tariffs, aimed at protecting American manufacturing and boosting domestic job growth, have sparked a mix of reactions from consumers, businesses, and economists alike. As companies brace for the financial implications of these trade policies, many are left wondering how the changes will affect prices and economic stability in the months to come. Tariffs, essentially taxes imposed on imported goods, are designed to make foreign products more expensive, thereby incentivizing consumers to purchase domestically produced items. For instance, a 10% tariff on a $10 product adds an additional $1, raising the total cost to $11. While Trump argues that these measures will encourage investment in American manufacturing, critics warn that they may lead to increased prices for consumers and potential job losses in industries reliant on global supply chains. One of the more striking aspects of the recent tariff announcements is the scale of their implementation. For example, on February 4, Trump introduced a 10% tariff on Chinese imports, which escalated to 20% the following month, and reached a staggering 145% on most goods by April. This aggressive tariff strategy has prompted retaliatory measures from China, which has imposed its own tariffs on U.S. goods, further straining bilateral trade relations. The impact of these tariffs is already being felt by consumers. Major brands like Adidas and Mattel have indicated that they will raise prices for American customers due to the increased costs associated with tariffs. Additionally, the tariffs have led to tighter customs checks at U.S. borders, contributing to delays in the supply chain and potentially exacerbating the cost of goods manufactured in the U.S. using foreign components. For example, the automotive industry, where parts often cross borders multiple times before assembly, is particularly vulnerable to these changes. Beyond the immediate effects on consumers and businesses, the tariffs have also raised concerns about broader economic implications. The Federal Reserve finds itself in a precarious position, navigating the dual mandates of maintaining low unemployment and controlling inflation. With the potential for rising unemployment and higher prices, the Fed is faced with a challenging dilemma. As noted by Seema Shah, chief global strategist at Principal Asset Management, the uncertainty surrounding government policy adds to the complexity of managing economic stability. As the Federal Reserve holds interest rates steady, the specter of stagflation, where inflation rises alongside unemployment, looms large. Brian Colton, chief economist at Fitch Ratings, highlighted that the tariffs could reduce GDP growth while simultaneously increasing prices, complicating the Fed's ability to respond effectively. Internationally, the response to Trump's tariffs has been equally fraught. The United Kingdom, which exported approximately £58 billion worth of goods to the US in 2024, is currently negotiating a deal to mitigate the impact of these tariffs. While some exemptions may be granted, the overall uncertainty surrounding the tariffs poses challenges for UK businesses, particularly in the automotive and pharmaceutical sectors. Looking ahead, the ramifications of these tariffs will likely continue to unfold, shaping not only the US economy but also its international trade relationships. With economists predicting a possible recession in 2025, the stakes are high for both the Trump administration and consumers, who may soon face increased prices on a wide range of imported goods. As negotiations unfold and businesses adjust to the new economic realities, the long-term impacts of these tariffs remain to be seen. Ultimately, how the administration navigates this complex landscape will be crucial in determining the future of American manufacturing and consumer pricing in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. Lithuania's defense strategy is undergoing a significant transformation under the leadership of Dovilas Sakalian, the country's Minister of National Defense. Since taking office in 2024, Sakalian, a former psychologist and journalist, has been at the forefront of reforming Lithuania's military capabilities, emphasizing the urgent need for modernization in the face of rising threats from Russia and the necessity for increased defense spending. In an exclusive interview with Defense News, Sakalian outlined the ambitious plans Lithuania has for its military, which include a projected defense budget of 5.25% of the country's GDP in the upcoming year. This budget will support not only the enhancement of Lithuania's armed forces but also its commitment to aid Ukraine amid the ongoing conflict, with pledges amounting to approximately €110 million, $124 million for 2025. As Europe grapples with security concerns, Sakalian has identified a pivotal moment for Lithuania in re-establishing its first national division. "We are currently at a stage where almost every acquisition is urgent," she stated, emphasizing the need for advanced land capabilities and technological support. This includes investments in maneuver and indirect fire support, electronic warfare, and military engineering, which are critical for bolstering the country's defense readiness. Sakalian has also been proactive in fostering defense cooperation with the United States, recognizing the vital role the U.S. plays within NATO. Reflecting on the impacts of the Trump administration, she noted the increased U.S. military presence in the region, stating the first term of President Trump was extremely beneficial to Lithuania. "He has put more boots on the ground than any presidents before him." She expressed confidence that the U.S. commitment to NATO remains steadfast despite the complex narratives surrounding U.S. foreign policy. However, she cautioned that this collaboration must be met with equal commitment from European nations, urging them to invest more in their own defense. "We are partners with the US in saying, guys, money on the table now please," she asserted, highlighting the need for a balanced burden sharing within NATO. Amid these developments, Lithuania has made controversial decisions such as withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention, which bans anti-personnel mines. Sakalian defended this move as a necessary step for national security, arguing that having controlled mines on Lithuanian soil would be preferable to the uncertainty posed by Russian mines. "This is about sending strategic messages and working together within regions," she explained, indicating a shift in Lithuania's defensive posture. Looking ahead, Sakalian acknowledged the urgency in ramping up defense initiatives as the threat from Russia looms larger. "We have to imagine the worst-case scenario for us to be prepared," she warned, underscoring the importance of rapid capability development. Her optimism about the pace of military reform is tempered by a desire for even quicker advancements, as she aims to accelerate the timeline for establishing the national division from 15 years to just 5. As Lithuania navigates these complex challenges, the broader implications for European security are profound. The nation's proactive stance on defense, coupled with its strategic partnerships, positions it as a key player in the region. With increasing investments in both military capabilities and the defense industry, Lithuania is not only enhancing its own security but also contributing to the collective defense of Europe against emerging threats. In conclusion, as geopolitical tensions escalate and security dynamics shift, Lithuania's determination to bolster its defense capabilities and strengthen international alliances will be crucial. The coming years will likely see a continued focus on modernization and strategic cooperation. As Lithuania seeks to ensure its sovereignty and the stability of the region amid an uncertain future, as Europe navigates the complex diplomatic landscape shaped by the unpredictable leadership of U.S. President Donald Trump, the continent faces a critical juncture in its economic and political relations with the United States. Following Trump's re-election, European nations have been granted a 90-day window to negotiate a deal that will avoid the imposition of reciprocal tariffs, a scenario that forces European leaders to rethink their strategies in dealing with an administration known for its mercurial nature. Historically, managing Trump has relied heavily on the diplomatic playbook exemplified by Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Abe's approach included abundant flattery and a willingness to absorb economic blows without retaliation. His strategy yielded short-term benefits, but Japan's export economy, particularly in steel and automobiles, has continued to suffer under U.S. tariffs. As Europe contemplates its response, it becomes clear that no one has effectively changed Trump's deeply held belief that America's allies have long exploited their economic relationship with the U.S. As such, high tariffs on traditional partners are seen as necessary corrective measures. The European Union now finds itself at a crossroads, with the clock ticking on a potential tariff standoff. Many analysts suggest that while engaging diplomatically with Trump is vital, it is equally critical to prepare for a new economic reality, one where the U.S. may not adhere to the established rules of global trade. This duality presents a significant challenge for EU policymakers. Trump's administration has demonstrated a penchant for unpredictability that complicates traditional diplomatic engagements and calls for a re-evaluation of Europe's economic strategies. In this context, former European Central Bank President Mario Draghi's recent remarks underscored the importance of a robust internal market within the EU itself. Currently, exports to the U.S. account for approximately 3% of the EU's GDP, a figure that highlights the EU's relative resilience compared to other nations heavily reliant on American markets. Draghi's acknowledgement of Europe's fiscal capacity to respond to external shocks suggests that the EU could formulate a response to Trump's tariffs that preserves its long-term economic integrity while also exploring avenues for deeper internal integration. Moreover, the EU must avoid naive concessions, such as reducing its value-added tax or unilaterally cutting tariffs on U.S. imports. Such moves would not only undermine the EU's economic stability but would also fail to address the core issues at play. European leaders need to approach negotiations with a keen understanding of Trump's desire for balanced trade, which could guide the EU in crafting a response that is both strategic and calculated. As negotiations progress, Europe possesses various avenues to counterbalance U.S. pressures. For instance, the EU can leverage its strength in negotiation to resist demands that threaten its economic fabric while simultaneously preparing to retaliate in a measured manner that aligns with its economic interests. This approach would entail selective tariffs that match U.S. levies without disproportionately harming European economies. In the broader geopolitical context, Europe's political landscape is also shifting. While Trump's administration has expressed frustrations with Russia and embraced a more assertive stance toward Ukraine, the dynamics of European diplomacy are evolving. Ukraine's recent establishment of a reconstruction investment fund with the U.S. illustrates a growing recognition of Ukraine as a critical partner in stabilizing the region against Russian aggression. This partnership not only affirms Ukraine's sovereignty over its resources but also highlights the potential for a more robust transatlantic alliance. As Europe looks ahead, the challenge lies in balancing its economic interests with the unpredictable nature of U.S. politics. By adopting a collective strategy that prioritizes internal cohesion and strategic partnerships, Europe can ensure that it remains a formidable player on the global stage regardless of the administration in Washington. The upcoming months will be pivotal as European leaders navigate these complex negotiations, embodying both resilience and adaptability in the face of an uncertain future. The decisions they make now will lay the groundwork for a balanced economic and military alliance that could endure shifts in U.S. leadership and policy.